Exodus chapter 9, verses 1 to 35. I am reading from the New Revised Standard Version, the Green Bible. Verse 1. Then the Lord said to Moses, Go to Pharaoh and say to him, Thus says the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, let my people go so that they may worship me. Verse 2. For if you refuse to let them go and still hold them, verse 3, the hand of the Lord will strike with a deadly pestilence your livestock in the field, the horse, donkeys, the camels, the herds, and the flocks. Verse 4, but the Lord will make a distinction between the livestock of Israel and the livestock of Egypt, so that nothing shall die of all that belongs to the Israelites. Verse 5, the Lord set a time, saying, Tomorrow the Lord will do these things in the land. Verse 6, and on the next day the Lord did so. All the livestock of the Egyptians died, but of the livestock of the Israelites, not one died. Verse 7, Pharaoh inquired and found that not one of the livestock of the Israelites was dead, but the heart of the Pharaoh was hardened, and he would not let the people go. Verse 8, then the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, Take handfuls of salt from the kiln and let Moses throw it in the air in the sight of Pharaoh. Verse 9, it shall become fine dust all over the land of Egypt and shall cause festering boils on humans and animals throughout the whole land of Egypt. Verse 10, so they took salt from the kiln and stood before Pharaoh, and Moses threw it in the air, and it caused festering boils on the humans and animals. Verse 11, the magicians could not stand before Moses because of the boils, for the boils afflicted the magicians as well as all the Egyptians. Verse 12, but the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, and he would not listen to them, just as the Lord had spoken to Moses. Verse 13, and the Lord said to Moses, Rise up early in the morning and present yourself before Pharaoh and say to him, Thus says the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, let my people go so that they may worship me. Verse 14, but this time I will send all my plagues upon yourself and upon your officials and upon your people, so that you may know that there is no one like me in all the earth. Verse 15, for by now I could have stretched out my hand and struck you and your people with pestilence, and you would have been cut off from the earth. Verse 16, but this is why I have let you live, to show you my power and to make my name resound through all the earth. Verse 17, you are still exalting yourself against my people and will not let them go. Verse 18, tomorrow at this time, I will cause the heaviest hail to fall that has ever fallen in Egypt from the day it was founded until now. Verse 19, send therefore and have your livestock and everything that you have in the open field brought to a secure place. Every human or animal that is in the open field and it is not brought under the shelter will die when the hail comes down upon them. Verse 20, those officials of Pharaoh who feared the word of the Lord hurried their slaves and livestock off to a secure place. Verse 21, those who did not regard the word of the Lord let their slaves and livestock in the open field. Verse 22, the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand toward heaven so that hail may fall on the whole land of Egypt, on humans and animals and all the plants of the field in the land of Egypt. Verse 23, then Moses stretched out his staff toward heaven, and the Lord sent thunder and hail, and fire came down on the earth, and the Lord rained hail on the land of Egypt. Verse 24, there was hail with fire flashing continually in the midst of it, such heavy hail as had never fallen in all the land of Egypt since it became a nation. Verse 25, the hail struck down everything that was in the open field throughout all the land of Egypt, both human and animal. The hail also struck down all the plants of the field and shattered every tree in the field. Verse 26, only in the land of Goshen, where the Israelites were, there was no hail. Verse 27, then Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and said to them, this time I have sinned, the Lord is in the right, and I and my people are in the wrong. Verse 28, pray to the Lord, enough of God's thunder and hail. I will let you go. You never stay no longer. Verse 29, Moses said to him, as soon as I have gone out of the city, I will stretch out my hands to the Lord. The thunder will cease, and there will be no more hail, so that you may know that the earth is in the Lord's. Verse 30, but as for you and your officials, I will know that you do not yet fear the Lord. Verse 31, now the flax and the barley were ruined, for the barley was in the ear, and the flax was in the bud. Verse 32, but the wheat and the spelt were not ruined, for they are late in coming. Verse 33, so Moses left Pharaoh, went out of the city, and stretched out his hands to the Lord. Then the thunder and the hail ceased, and the rain no longer poured down on the earth. Verse 34, but when Pharaoh saw that the rain and the hail and the thunder had ceased, he sinned once more and hardened his heart, he and his officials. Verse 35, so the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, and he would not let the Israelites go, just as the Lord had spoken through Moses. I am reading from the New Revised Standard Version, Exodus chapter 9, verses 1 to 35.